Hey, if I was a practicing Jew, and I'm not even Jewish, right? But if I was a practicing Jew, I'd be wearing a yarmulke on my head. I've got yarmulkes because I've got a lot of Jewish friends who have given them to me. This one wasn't given to me by a Jewish friend. It was given to me by my pastor, Jarrett Stevens. He just got back from Israel, and he thought I needed this because this is a yarmulke that says Houston Rockets. All right, I'm not sure if that's blasphemous or not, but it's kind of cool to have a yarmulke that says that. Anyway, what does that have to do with our video thought for today? Well, we're in the Jewish scriptures, which are also Christian scriptures. We're in the Old Testament, as we call it. And yesterday I started lessons from the story of David and Goliath. We honed in on one verse. I hope you'll go back and listen to yesterday if you haven't, or if you need to be refreshed, because I want to pick the story up from there. See, the giant Goliath has left the Philistine army base and come down into the valley of Elah and challenged anybody Israel wants to come fight him. He says, you name it, anybody you got, I'll take them on. If they can beat me, you'll automatically win. All of Israel was scared to fight Goliath because he was a honking big dude. But David showed up, and even though he was a young shepherd boy at the time, David's attitude was, I'm glad to fight him. Bring him on, because he's fighting God. He's not fighting me. Well, word filters up to the king, King Saul, who, by the way, was supposedly the tallest of all of the Israelites. That's one reason they made him king. But he's petrified to go fight. He's not doing it. He's hoping someone else might. So you've got King Saul, and word gets to him that this boy named David is willing to do the fighting. So Saul says, bring him on. So David goes in front of the king, and the king says, you realize what you're doing? Yes, I do. And he says, well, God be with you, buddy. Give it a shot. And then we read this passage that is really, really good. Saul, look at this together with me. Saul, the king. Saul clothed David with his armor. Saul's got the best armor. He's the king. Saul puts his helmet of bronze on David's head. He clothes him with a coat of mail. David straps his sword over his armor. And he tried in vain to go because he hadn't tested him. He had never worn it before. And he tried in vain to go because he had trouble walking. I mean, you got the armor of the tallest Israelite on some shepherd boy. And you just see this boy with this armor that's too big for him and some gangly sword coming out down his leg, and you got the helmet that's probably his head rattles around in. And he's supposed to go fight. David says to Saul, and this is the verse I really want you to look at with me. David says to Saul, I can't go with your armor, because I've not tested your armor. So David took it off, and then he took his staff, his shepherd's staff in his hand. He picked 5 smooth stones from the brook down there in the valley of Elah. He put them in his shepherd's pouch. His sling was in his hand, and he approached the Philistine. David said, I can't go to battle with stuff I haven't tested before, but I've tested God. And I know that it was earlier that he said this, I know that when the bears or the wolves or whatever came after my livestock, God was there. And you give me my sling and you give me my stones and you put God behind it, and there's no giant that's not going to fall. I really like this. But what I really like about this is the idea that, in life, in business, in relationships, you need to go with what God has done with you before, what you've tested. You don't need to go off and find the newest, latest fad. There's a great deal of reliability in standing solid behind what God has shown you before will work. The key is having God behind you. think about how you can apply that in your life, because it's your video thought for the day.